imagine a man so charming, so cunning, that he could lure you into a labyrinth of horrors without you even realizing it. A man who built a house of nightmares where the walls whispered secrets and the floors hid unspeakable crimes. This is the story of Herman Webster Mudgett, better known as H.H. Holmes, America's first serial killer. Welcome to the Suspense Vault. Holmes was born on May 16, 1861, in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, a small rural town where everyone knew each other. His parents, Levi and Theodate Mudgett, were devout Methodists, and his upbringing was strict. But even as a child, Holmes displayed a chilling fascination with death. One infamous story claims that as a boy, he was forced to confront a human skeleton by his classmates. Instead of being terrified, he was intrigued. This macabre curiosity would foreshadow the horrors he would later inflict. In 1878, Holmes married Clara Lovering and had a son named Robert. But in 1880, Holmes abandoned his wife and son to study medicine at the University of Michigan, where he gained access to cadavers. But his experiments weren't just academic, they were sinister. He used the bodies to commit insurance fraud, a crime that would become a hallmark of his later schemes. Holmes would disfigure corpses to make them unrecognizable, claim they were accident victims, and collect the insurance money. This early taste of deception and death set the stage for his future atrocities. In 1886, Holmes moved to Chicago, a city teeming with opportunity and anonymity. The Windy City was a bustling metropolis, attracting thousands of people seeking work and adventure. Holmes took a job at a pharmacy, where he quickly charmed his way into ownership. But Holmes wasn't content with just running a business. He had a darker vision. Chicago was preparing to host the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, a grand celebration of progress and innovation. Millions of visitors would flock to the city, and Holmes saw an opportunity. He purchased an entire city block in the Englewood neighborhood and began constructing a building that would become infamous: the Murder Castle. The Murder Castle was a masterpiece of terror. On the surface, it appeared to be a 3-story hotel for visitors coming to the World's Fair, but beneath its ordinary facade lay a labyrinth of horrors. The building had over 100 rooms, but not all of them were meant for living. Secret passages, soundproof rooms, and trap doors allowed Holmes to move unseen. Some rooms were equipped with gas lines, which he used to asphyxiate his victim. Others had chutes that led directly to the basement, where he disposed of the bodies. Holmes' victims were often young women who came to Chicago for the World's Fair. He would lure them with promises of work or romance, only to trap them in his nightmarish building. Some were suffocated, others were dissected alive, and some were even sold as skeletons to medical schools. The basement of the Murder Castle was a gruesome workshop, complete with a dissection table, a crematorium, and vats of acid for disposing of remains. One of his most infamous victims was Julia Smythe, a woman who worked at the pharmacy next door. Holmes seduced her, convinced her to move into the castle, and then murdered her. Her husband, who came looking for her, also met a grim fate. Holmes' crimes were methodical, calculated, and utterly devoid of remorse. Holmes's reign of terror couldn't last forever. In 1894, he was arrested for insurance fraud after a botched scheme involving the death of his business partner, Benjamin Pitezel. Holmes had faked Pitezel's death to collect a $10,000 insurance payout, but investigators grew suspicious when they discovered Pitezel's body had been disfigured in a way that matched Holmes's earlier cadaver scam. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered the horrifying truth about the Murder Castle. Holmes was eventually linked to the disappearances of dozens of people, including Pitezel's 3 children, whom he had also murdered. Holmes' trial was a media sensation, and he was sentenced to death by hanging. On May 7, 1896, H.H. Holmes was executed. But even in death, he remained a figure of fascination. He requested to be buried in concrete, fearing grave robbers would dig up his body. And in a final act of manipulation, he claimed he couldn't help but kill, that he was born with the devil inside him. Holmes' story has inspired countless books, documentaries, and even a best-selling novel, The Devil in the White City, by Eric Larson. But the true horror lies in the fact that Holmes was a real person, a man who turned his darkest fantasies into reality. Holmes wasn't just America's first serial killer. He was a master manipulator, a predator who exploited the trust of his victims. His crimes shocked the nation and forever changed how we view evil. The murder castle, which stood as a monument to his depravity, mysteriously burned down in 1895, just before Holmes' trial. Some say it was an accident, while others believe it was an attempt to destroy the evidence of his crimes. Today, the site of the murder castle is a post office, but the memory of Holmes' atrocities lingers. His story reminds us that evil often hides behind a charming smile. So, the next time you hear about a seemingly perfect stranger, remember the tale of the murder castle and the man who built it. H. Holmes' life is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human soul. His crimes were not just acts of violence, they were a calculated exploitation of trust, ambition, and human vulnerability. Thanks for watching the Suspense Vault. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more chilling tales from the shadows of history. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.